I was going through some stuff the other day in the spare room, and yes, 12 months in, and I am still sorting the house. That is something that is quite relevant to this video actually. A whole year in, and effort is still being made to make the place feel finished. Thank God we found landlords that want us around for a long time, because I did not think that settling takes that long. And it's like that feeling of like, don't want to settle too hard because we're not really in our own home technically, but then our lovely landlords always say, this is your home, do what you want with it, enjoy it, it's your place. I found this letter. It was stuffed in one of my my moving boxes, because I genuinely, at the time of packing up the stuff in that box, could not imagine how my life was going to look in 12 months time. As most of you probably know, because I harp on about it quite a lot, I moved up the country last year. Yes, last year. I was born and bred in the south of England, and I decided to move up north because my boyfriend's family was from around here. Me and my boyfriend are pretty happy down south, but we decided to save a shite load of money, get a taste of that sweet northern life. My partner, though he had obviously been born here and brought up here, he didn't really get to experience a whole lot of it, as he was a child who didn't necessarily do a lot of exploring and getting to know his area as much. Like, he kind of came out of his shell a bit more when he moved down south when he was about 20. So it was a bit of a plunge, a bit of a jump for both of us, because we both didn't know whether we were going to like it, what to expect. I had never even lived at uni. I had never lived anywhere outside of my bedroom. I was brought to that very room as a baby. All I know is family. I am very private as a person. I don't have massive social circles or anything. I keep my cards very close to my chest. I'm a very personal person, so the people who I do invite into my life, it's very rare and few between, and I'm very cautious about who I let in, and like, I'm just quiet. Funnily enough, you might not believe that looking at the channel, but I am. And family is something that's all I knew, all I cared of. It's a really weird feeling to leave that all behind, leave everything you know behind. The only reason I did that is because I was so lucky to happen to fall in love with someone who had an equally amazing family, and that made the whole experience a lot easier. Although I love Adam, and I think that we had a better chance at like making a future for ourselves up here, it would have been a lot more difficult to do that all on our own, and I don't think we would have actually moved solely for the purpose of just having it easier for us financially up here. But I've said that before, and there's other videos of me talking about similar stuff to what I'm going to say, but this is, I guess, kind of just an update. But I will leave down below any videos I can find where I've spoken about like moving out for the first time, moving out of your family house for the first time, living independently, that kind of stuff. I'll leave it down there. I didn't even know what I was doing or if I was going to regret it. I just kind of held on to that motivation I had to go and why I was doing it, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do what I want to do, but I'm just going to try it anyway, and then clear up the mess later if it doesn't work out. How to live your dreams with Ellie. Okay, so it says at the top of the letter, 12th of December. Hello Ellie, I write this in the middle of your old... Oh god, am I gonna cry? No, I'm not gonna cry. I write this in the middle of your old / first / only bedroom, covered in clutter. Can I just say, my old bedroom, most people watching this will know of, because it's the bedroom that I filmed pretty much 80% of the videos on this channel in, is now completely different. I obviously haven't been home for a long time. I haven't seen my family in 6 months because of you know what. I will soon, and I will show you how much that bedroom has changed, and that itself is just so... It's a weird feeling. As much as I wanted it to change initially, and I remember saying to you guys that I wanted the bedroom to change so I kind of can help myself move on and disassociate myself to that bedroom as my bedroom now. It was still pretty painful to see it different for the first time. It was quite sad, but... You stink from packing 8 hours straight, which you've never had to do before. Literally have never moved house, ever. Never moved bedrooms, never moved anything. The most I'd ever packed was for an all-inclusive holiday, which was banging. It is surreal and doesn't feel real. Have you found a home yet? Are you in it now? Is it big? Modern? 2 bedrooms? Garden? These are... So I'm like listing things that we couldn't get down south because it was all the things I had to cut off with the budget we were on. if we wanted to save money at the same time. Is all the things we kind of had to sacrifice. Like we just had to get these like little dingy apartments. So I was saying that thinking that it probably wasn't going to be possible, and then I said, is it under £500? Because once again, the properties we were looking for, like small 1-bedroom apartment flats, were like 800, 850, some were 900 that I really loved. It just wasn't, it wasn't suitable, and I didn't think I'd be able to find something under £500. So answering those questions, it's big. It's modern. Yes, there are 2 bedrooms. Sure, they're not massive, but there are 2 bedrooms. There is a garden. And yes, it is in budget. How does it feel to be independent? A little overwhelming, really, honestly. You have so much freedom to just pick up and go somewhere, do something spontaneously without any justifying needed or like explanation. And the people I lived with, like my family, have never been controlling. Like my parents are just so open, so carefree. Like they're just like, follow your dreams, do what you're gonna do, we're here to support you, what you want to do. I would come out with the craziest stuff and have the craziest ideas and want to do the weirdest things. I was never questioned. Granted, we're not like the craziest sisters, so we didn't ever do the most like mental off the wall things that we could have done with such like understanding parents, but we didn't. But it's more the kind of like need to justify is gone, because you know what parents are like they want to know details and they want to make sure you've got everything under control because they care about you and they love you. But sometimes it gets to a point where it's like, I'm okay. Like there would be times when my mum might be like, have you considered this? Is that the best thing? When you live with people, your plans mingle in with theirs. So like it was hard for me anyway to like break off and do something and want to do something on a certain day if my mum was like, but the household is doing that thing on that day. So you had to kind of ask other people in the house what was going on a certain day before you could make plans. It also feels scary and worrying, you know. Luckily I've got my family around, and sure they're miles away, but like if something really went down, they're there. You have to deal with it yourself in the meantime, and luckily small things like good landlords make that so much better. I mean, obviously my landlord's never going to be like, don't worry babe, if you don't have got the money, don't worry about it sweetheart. She's not going to do that. But I also know she's not going to like send me, I don't know, threats or like guilt trip me or something if I'm struggling. Like even if it's just like acts of kindness, personal touches to what could be just a robotic system of like, you know, you pay me your rent and I shut up kind of situation. Every time my landlord visits, she visits like every 3 months, and every time I tell people that, they're like, ooh. And I'm like, no, it's not like an inspection thing. It's literally checking we're okay, asking if we've got any complaints, wanting to know if everything's cushy, catching up with us, having a chat, like a general how you doing and how's life. Every time she comes, she brings like a little box of biscuits, and that sounds so silly, but it's the tiny little things like that that just go a long ass way. She actually came over with some toilet roll and some hand wash and some chocolates, I think it was. How many people can say that their landlord popped over in a time like this to make sure we're okay and to just pass a little... Anyway, I don't expect her to go above and beyond, but there has also been a lot of things that have gone wrong in this flat, and she stepped in and made sure we're good as well. When it comes to Adam's family, like we have those lot around nearby in walking distance. If I don't know, if something happens to our shower, we've got someone to pop over and like shower at. Those things make such a massive difference, and I'll never like not mention them. I don't want to make out as if what I have done and the big move being so difficult and hard, because actually it's been made easy by the things that I've got, like my privileges, and I think that's important to mention. I think that I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my god, look what I've done all by myself. I will not lie and say people haven't helped me, and so much luck on my side. It's absolutely crazy. How is being so far away from mum and dad? It's funny because I did ask a lot of people this on social media before moving. I was like, who's moved away from their family and how is it? And a lot of people have said, don't underestimate the power of video calls. And I was always like, they're not really for me. I still don't like them. I still think they're a bit crappy and they're not the best. But I did underestimate the power, like that person said. I did underestimate how much you actually feel you visited that person after a video call. I've come out of video calls particularly because of everything going on right now. And it does feel like you've just popped over to visit them. Like when you come come off the call, you sit down in the living room again and you're like, feels like I just went to go visit my mum and dad. I know they're okay. I physically saw them. They're there. They're happy. I got to see a bit of the house, so it just feel like you sat in the living room with them. These past 6 months has been the most amount of time I've ever been away from my family. That's insane, and I am starting to feel it, of course. I never would have anticipated something like this happening when I wrote this letter in a million years. And if someone had gone back in time and said to me, hey Ellie, you're not going to be able to see your family for even longer than you think, there's going to be a virus, I probably would have reconsidered moving. I probably would have been like, I wouldn't be able to do it then. And I think that's a massive lesson I can take from this, actually, because I do overthink excessively, too much. I do think into the future too far, but I do have these scenarios in my head that I kind of set myself out to expect just in case. And obviously what's going on now in the world is not something that I put out there to expect. And the fact that it's happened, and even though it sounds tragic and horrible, I've made it work. I've been literally the most like frightened I've ever been in my life in some points, but I worked it out. I saw it through every day as one step at a time. It doesn't matter how much you overthink or how many scenarios you set out in front of you just in case one of them is to happen. What actually happens can never truly be predicted. Even more so, you cannot predict exactly how you will deal with them. And I think we constantly prove ourselves wrong when we achieve amazing things in our lives, and I am glad that I was aware I could have regretted moving, but I still went anyway because I wanted to give myself the benefit of the doubt. I wanted just to say, let's see what happens instead. It's not too different from just when I hadn't seen them for a few hours because I'm hanging out with friends or I stayed at a friend's house. I mean, I could cope in those moments. I could cope in those days that I hadn't seen my mum and dad for a little while, or when I went to Adam's flat for a few days. It's that same feeling of just like haven't seen them for a while. The kind of length hasn't necessarily changed the amount I've missed them. I still miss them as much as I would have if I'd just had like a weekend away from them. And what makes that even more true is when I go see them, it's like nothing's even happened. You stand in that house and no time has gone by. The only real difference is changes that happen in the family and around the house. Like I was saying about rooms changing, I haven't actually seen my bedroom transformation, but I am dreading it a little bit because that's when you see the change. And it's also, you know, change in people's faces, like young people in my family growing like up in the space that I've last seen them. Your mum and dad getting a little bit older. Like, I mean, I haven't even been moved away for a long time. Anyway, deep chats. I am nervous as heck. To think you can't go cuddle them right now if you want to, as I could. It is sad, but also I could still talk to them, like we have phones. Anyway, I finished the letter by saying, I hope you are happy, Ellie, and Adam is looking after you like a king to his princess. Oh my god, I finished the letter with, in brackets, are you broke? Lol. There must have been a little part of me that kind of feared just having Adam, I suppose. And I have mentioned this a couple times recently on my channel as like a main form of outlet, especially in the early days when I didn't have like friends to rely on, and maybe I wasn't necessarily too close with his family yet, so I didn't like have that confidence to maybe rely on them for certain things that I wanted. Just in terms of like dynamics, you know, like girls to laugh with, girls to have fun with and to be silly with and mess around with, and also people who had similar interests to me. Like I wanted to find people that I could bond with over things that I couldn't bond with Adam about. I kind of wanted to know whether I was going to kind of feel protected in that sense and sort of looked after, because I had a feeling that I was going to need it, and I was nervous, I guess, for Adam as well, in case he felt like he couldn't be enough. living with someone, I was told, is like the make it or break it situation. It's when the true colours really come out. You understand a lot about someone's values, how they are as a person. Obviously, there were things that I could take from already seeing Adam living on his own, some habits he had that might clash with mine. Maybe some of our priorities were different, or even the same. Some of our priorities were the same in terms of like how we wanted to look after and clean the flat. Those things are testing. You don't want to find out that your partner is terrible at paying bills on time when you've just made that commitment. And I hate to sound smug and annoying, especially for those people who have experienced it when it breaks them, but it has entirely made it for us. I go by my gut quite a lot and by my intuition, and to never even need to question. Like, I've never had a gut feeling that's felt funny, and you know me, I read my tarot cards quite a lot, but I'm always reading on topics that is everything else but our relationship, because I've never felt a need to ask anything or to work on my intuition on something. Like, if I had funny feelings about something Adam had said, like, I'd get my cards out, knowing me, I'd be like, what's this? That obviously is a massive factor in like how smoothly everything has run. Thankfully, I think a lot of that comes down to effective communication. I think a lot of people make things very unnecessarily difficult. I think I used to surround myself in a lot of people who were okay at communication, but I did surround myself in a few people who maybe suppressed a few emotions and how they feel, like feelings. Telling someone how they're doing, like properly, truly, deep down. And I think being on your own kind of allows you to be more in touch with yourself in that way. And obviously everyone right now going through lockdown has got into that mindset too. So being more in touch with my actual authentic core self without maybe like people from the household, family, concrete belief systems that were put on me as a child, or like I kind of grew up with. When you kind of separate yourself from that, you get more in touch with who you are as an individual away from all of that, and combining that element with soaking in traits of someone who is really good at just saying exactly how it is. It's made me a lot better at telling people exactly how I feel and being more open and honest as a person. How do I want my days to look? How do I want my home to look? Like, what kind of art am I into? What do I want to put on the walls? Like, how do I inspire myself? Like, what words do I want to live by? What's the kind of energy I want the house to have? Like, do I want certain words on the wall to help me feel comfortable in my own home, or inspired, or energetic, or relaxed? Like, what's the kind of vibe I want my life to be? Obviously, you spend hours and hours, the majority of your life, in your home, so you got to think like, what kind of aura do I want that to have? And those are questions that you don't really ask yourself to that same degree when you live with other people, because you know, you have to consider everybody, and you ask yourself a lot about your identity. You might even have a bit of an identity crisis when you live on your own, because you are suddenly displaying so much of yourself around you and your surroundings. And that goes in with hobbies and interests too. Like, you've also got more time for yourself, because all the things you're doing are just ultimately for yourself now. And now I don't spend as much time maybe watching what other people in the household want to watch, or talking to my like family, my parents, putting myself fully into hobbies. And you can be a bit more kind of unapologetic with the stuff that you want to do. Like I said about not needing to justify anything earlier, I've got more into kind of witchcraft. I'm just exploring that at my own pace. Like, I don't have to like discuss that with anyone. I don't have to tell them every stage I'm going through, and I don't have anything like intrusive coming in and saying like, why are you doing that? What's the reason for that? Do you believe in that? Like, what's your conclusion at this point in time? Like, this is all about just having your own pace, your own journey, and going through all of it in your own way. And then obviously if we finish with, are you broke? The funny thing about that is, and that's just very typical Ellie, side note, to be like, hee hee, but like really that was a massive part of why I wrote that letter. I didn't actually think I'd be able to do it, because I am self-employed. It is rocky. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how things are going to turn out. You know, as life has shown us recently, we don't know what to expect, and we don't know how money is going to treat us, and we don't know how it's going to come by a lot of the time, especially if you're self-employed. And it was all on me. I had to move because what I loved doing ultimately didn't pay me me enough to live where I was, but I also moved so I could continue doing what I love doing so much. A massive thing that I've really got better at throughout living on my own for a year is to split up my income. I didn't have a lot of room to like spread myself too thin. I couldn't really give myself that freedom to like, you know, pop in this room to do that and utilize this room to do this certain thing, and then have all this space so I could get this done. Like, I wanted to kind of spread my wings to expand as well, so I could have the space, the freedom and the time to do all these different things in every hour of the day. You can work at like 1 a.m. in the morning, or like you can decide to take over the entire living room to do some like photo shoot for a company. Like, you can do what you want when you want, and you don't have to rely on other people determining when and where and what space you can use, because everything that I do is so emotional based. Every element of my work life relies on how I feel. I can't just do something mundane if I'm in a bad mood. Like, things that earn me money is so emotional based. Tarot reading, so emotional based. If I don't feel up to scratch that day, I can't read cards. I cannot do it. I can't film. I don't want to get in front of a camera if I don't feel in the mood to do that. I've also got into something else that I kind of do on the side now. I don't really want to talk about that at this point in time because it's still early days, but that is also very, very emotional based. To have to rely on my kind of mood swings and then rely on like other people's time schedules in the house in a small bungalow, and it just made it very restrictive of how much I can do. It's been so much fun to explore different self-employed bits and bobs here and there in terms of like making money from home, and it's been really like scary and challenging, but also it's a little bit exciting. I'm proud of myself for even coming this far. Anyway, I'm gonna go and I will see you for our next video.